Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you had a good weekend. As always, weekends are kind of shorter than you want them to be, but I'm glad you're back. Things are kind of settling in here with the online students. They're figuring out how to get assignments turned in. I just wanted to review in case you're new or you're still confused a little bit that in Google Classroom, when you go to My Classroom and you go to your classwork, you'll click up here. And for this week, I got Monday and Tuesday, although they're light gray, they're not active yet. They will be here as soon as I'm done with this video. But if you clicked on Monday, the very first one here, this is where your study guides, maybe. Well, let's go down to last Friday. There we go. On last Friday, you had a quiz right here. That quiz, we'll have a quiz every Friday or a test. And so that quiz is very important that you get that taken care of and turned in by 4 o'clock on Friday. 3 o'clock, so I can have your grades done by 4. So that's a very high priority on your school day on Friday is to take your quiz or test. But over here, after the quiz or the test, we had a little bit more practice of practicing collecting like terms. And then down here is a short video that was for that day to kind of tell you about the quiz and maybe some things that I seen kids doing correctly and incorrectly on their previous day. After you printed those guys off or taken care of them, here's the PDF for the quiz. You're supposed to come down here, and right here it says submit your answers for your quiz on Friday. So you would open this one, and there is your Google form for your quiz. And then here is your form for turning in, and 5 kids already this morning turned it in out of this class of 10. There's where you would submit your answers for 5 dash or 5B. Now, a lot of you are asking me saying there are no questions. When I make a Google form, I can't put the questions in, so you just need to pay attention to putting the answer into the correct problem number. Also, sometimes when it gets to the word problems, pay particularly close attention to how I want you to put your answer in, whether it's decimal form, how you put the dollar sign in, or maybe the units for the word problem. So rather than just putting in a numeric answer, make sure you pay attention to the little directions there on how to put your answer in for those so that you get credit for them and getting them right, especially if you have the right answer. I'm kind of frustrated if you put the right answer in, but then maybe you put a space somewhere and Google Forms will count it wrong. So get the credit for getting the right answer, okay? And I'll try to make sure those forms are, think of all the possible ways you can put that answer in, but read the directions and you'll probably be okay. All right, so today we're going to start the distributive property. I wanted to go over a couple problems from the page that you turned in on Friday, lesson 5. And I see some kids are kind of thinking that each lesson's kind of isolated and that we don't have to do that skill anymore, that we just kind of do it for the day. Math this year is really built on the previous skills that we have learned, and we just don't stop using them. For example, on problem number 6, we were collecting like terms, and so as we came through here, we wanted to put the x squared with the 3x squared because those are like terms and they're the highest degree. So on this answer, you should have had 4x squared. Now, anytime it says simplify, that means do all math possible. We mentioned that on this lesson when we were going over it in the video. All math possible means I can do this, minus 4 squared. Now, let's talk about this. Minus 4 squared, that 2 only goes to the 4, so I know it's going to be a negative, and 4 times 4 is 16. Now, it would be different if it was this, minus 4 inside the parentheses, because that would be a negative 4 times a negative 4, which is a positive 16. These are very common mistakes that kids make in math. So really focus on that. Is the negative 4 in parentheses or not? If it's not, it just goes to the 2. We talked about writing answers in standard form, and we really want to start focusing and heading that way. Standard form means take the largest exponent first. So I have some k squareds here, I have some k squareds there, and that's it. K-squareds are bigger than K's. We talked about that on Thursday's lesson, showing you different kind of shapes that a K-square looks like this. So that's the biggest shape. K's are something that looks like this, and units are these guys that look like this, and so they're the smallest. So we want to put our K first, and a positive 8 and a negative 3 would be 5K squared. All right. Now we want to go to our K's. We have a 4K there, and I have a minus 1K there for a total of 3Ks. And now I still have these guys. I still have a 3 to the second power, which I know is 9, and plus 5. So again, we have some work here. We need to do all math that we possibly can. So 9 plus 5 is 14. So that is the best answer. It is written in standard form. All math is done until they tell me what K's value is. All right, so make sure as we're going through these lessons that you're carrying it on to the next one. Problem number 16 and 17, a number of you missed because as you were going through, and I kind of misled you a little bit in the study guide, but perimeter means the distance all the way around these shapes. And so you have to kind of use some previous information that we're missing this side here. We're missing this side. We're missing this side. And we're also missing this one. So how are we going to find those? So previous years of your math experience, you should say, well, we just look to the opposite side. If that's 3A, well then this one has to be 3A. Over this way, I see 3A from here to here, so in this shape, this side is a 3A. Looking at the small rectangle, well, this A has to come down here, so if it's A from here to here, well, then this also has to be an A. Going across this way, they said it's a B plus 2. So this line right here is the same distance as this one. Now I have all my missing sides, and perimeter means what's the distance around all these sides. So now you could go through and say, well, I have 3 A's here, 3 there, 3 there, 3 there. So that's 3, 6, 9, 12 so far. I have another one here, 13, 14. So I have 14 of these things called A's. Standard form says also go in alphabetical order. If all of them are to the first degree or the same degree, the next step would be to go into alphabetical order. So let's go with my B's. I have a B here and a B here for a total of 2 B's. And my last one are my units. I have a plus 2 here and a plus 2 here. So my final answer, simplified, is this, 14A plus 2B plus 4. Now if you have this practice sheet, which I hope you do, that it's in your notebook, do number 17 real quick. Then let's see if we come up with the same answer. Pause the video, do number 17, find that paper, and let's practice doing this one, because this one's a little bit different, but I think you can handle it. Okay, so hopefully you said, if I had a dashed line, this guy right here, from here to here is 2y minus 1. So that means down here, 2y minus 1 is that same distance from here to here. If I look straight across here, I see the distance from here to here is x. So now I have all my missing sides on the perimeter going around. So now I'm going to have a starting point. Alphabetical order, my x's come before y's. So I'm going to count up all my x's. I have 2 x's there, 3, 4, and it looks like that's it. So I have 4x. Now I'm going to count up my y's. I have 2 y's there, 4 there, so that's 6. Here's another one, 7, and 2 more, 8, 9. So I have 9 y's. And now I'm going to get my last one, is my units. I have 4 here. I have a minus 1 there, so that's 3. plus 2 back to 5 and minus 1. So now I'm at 4. Somebody was in the hallway, so I kind of lost track of things. So 4, 3, 4, 5, minus 4. I think I like it. All right. So look at the problems. You know what the definition of parameter is. Parameter means the distance around a shape. So keep that in mind. We're continuing to learn and push ourselves to new concepts. Today we're doing something called the distributive property. So complete these warm-ups and let's see if you come up with the same answers as me. Pause your video. Okay, you're back. So the equation, the x here is called the variable. Now when you're multiplying fractions, which we're going to do a lot of that today on the practice sheet, it's numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. I again like to cross cancel whenever I can. So I see some cross canceling right here. 2 goes into 4 2 times, and 2 goes into 2 1 time. 2 times 1 is 2, 5 times 1 is 5. We always try to, well, we always make sure our fractions are reduced. So that's why they keep reminding us, simplest form. Always, even if they don't say simplest form, fractions are always written in simplest form. We got 3/4 here and divided by, so I'm just going to change when I rewrite the problem. I know that I flip the second number, take the reciprocal of the second number, and change the sign to times. I can see that 2 goes into both of these, and now I can do my answer. 3 and 2 times 1 is 2. That's an improper fraction. 2 goes into 3 one time, 1 left over, and a half. Evaluate for n, so I'm going to put 0.5 in for 8, right behind the 8, plus 2. I know 0.5 is the same as a half, and half of 8 is 4, so my answer is 6. And here's just, even though we haven't learned isolate the variable and solving equations, this is a nice easy one that if I put 12 in for the x, I said put 12 in for the x, is 5 plus 12 7. No, it's not, so it's not A. 5 plus 5 is 10, not 7. I put a 7 in, 7 plus 5 is 12. I'm looking for 7. If I put a 2 in, 5 plus 2 is 7, so D is the correct answer. Okay, so even if you forgot how to isolate the variable in one-step equations, which we'll review that probably starting tomorrow, we can still plug numbers in to get the answer. All right, there's the answers for my kids. Here's something that I have used with kids in the past, because we're going to do a whole lot of multiplying today. And it's kind of like a triangle where you put a plus on top and 2 negatives on the bottom. And so anytime I have a negative, the way you use this, if I have a negative times a negative, you cover these two guys up with your finger, and what's left is a positive. So your answer is going to be a positive. If my signs are different, like a positive and a negative, well then I cover these two guys up with my finger, and my answer is a negative. Okay, so it goes back to that basic concept of if I'm multiplying or dividing fractions, anytime the signs are the same, it's always going to be a positive. If my signs are different, doesn't matter, positive, negative, negative, positive, anytime I'm multiplying and dividing, my answer is always going to be a negative. So I like to try to predict, or not predict, but find the sign of my problem first and record that, and then worry about my numbers. Just a little bit of review because it's been a weekend. We have, this is what we're going to work on today. It's called the distributive property, which I have that on the next page. But remember, a term is a number that's, we just draw a little line between the signs. So if I was down here and this was my whole problem, I draw a line in between my plus and minus signs. And so 1, 2, 3, there's 4 terms down there. Constant, that would be a term that has no variable, like negative 12, which we show that over here. The coefficients is what we're adding and multiplying today. So it's the numbers in front of the variables. And like terms would be like what we reviewed last week. X's can go with X's. X squareds can't go with X's. Again, X squareds are some kind of a square, and we can't put X squareds with these things called X's and say we have 5 of these and 2 of those and we have 7 of something. They have to be the same. So here's what we're going to do today, and maybe you remember this from previous years. We're going to do what we call the distributive property. This is the algebraic way of showing the rule. And basically it's called hippity hop. Some teachers in 7th and 8th grade teach it that you take the A times everything inside the parentheses. So I like to draw little lines to keep track of my work, because we're going to get more than 2 terms inside the parentheses. And so we want to keep track of things. Over here on my example, you could have possibly done some 20 plus 6 and taken that times 4, because one of our order of operations says do all the math inside the parentheses first and then do multiplication and division on further down. But so this would what it looked like, and we'd get the same answer. The problem with this is when we come down here to our first example, we can't do anything inside the parentheses, but we still have math that we can do. We can simplify this. So what we do is we draw a little line like this, and really there's a 1 in front of this, so we have -6 times 1, which is -6 of these things called A. We have -6 of them. And then we draw a line to the next one, -6 times +8, and I know 6 times 8 is 48, but a negative times a positive is a -48. Now as I look at my problem, there's nothing else I can do. It's in standard form. I have A to the first is my largest degree, and I have my 48. This is now the final answer. They didn't write this one in standard form in the parentheses, which is okay. Just looks a little bit different that our x's aren't first and 1 should be over here, but that's okay. So we can go this way. 4 times 1 is 4. I know that's going to be my units, and it's a positive 4. So just to keep it in standard form, I'm going to rewrite this then. I know 4 times 9 is 36, so this is a plus 36x. So I'm going to now write it in standard form. 36x's comes first, plus 4. That is the very best answer. This answer here would be okay. Put my 4 back. This would be an okay answer, but this is a better one. Strive for putting it into standard form. Okay. Some kids kind of get lazy and don't do the arrows. I recommend that you do the little arrows, so as we get these parentheses, more and more terms inside the parentheses, you're able to keep track of things. Pause your video, do these couple problems here, and let's see if we come up with the same answer. Alright, welcome back. Let's see how you did. I got -30 ends there, and 7 times 6 is 42. Kind of, when I do this, it doesn't matter if it's in the back or in the front. You kind of do it this way. Some kids do, they don't want to rewrite the problem. So you should have 18 m's here, and then 2 times 10 is plus 20. Sometimes I will rewrite this problem because I'm used to working from right to left. And it doesn't matter in multiplication if you say 2 times 3, or you reverse them and say 3 times 2. You can reverse these guys. We're still going to get 6. We're still going to get 18m plus 20. So if you want to put this guy in the front, and we're rewriting a math problem anyhow, sometimes on sheets of paper when we're copying a problem out of a book or something. So I'm going to do that with this one. I'm going to put the -8 out front. I'm going to put my parentheses. And now I'm going to do my distributive property. Negative times a negative is a positive. 8 times 4 is 36. So I have a positive 36. Actually, that's not true. 8 times 4 is 32. And here I got 8 times 3, which is 24. Again, I have a negative times a negative, so that's a positive 24 ends. So I want to rewrite it in standard form. My ends are bigger than my units. So 24n plus 32. Alright. over this one. 8 times, there's really a 1 in front of that, so really it's 8 times negative 1 is one way to think about it. So it's a negative 8b's. Now I have 8 times a negative 4, which is a minus 32. Some kids would just maybe, let's pretend you forgot that a positive times a negative is a negative, and you wrote 8b minus 32. Well, some teachers in junior high would say, hey, you did the distributive property right, you just got the sign wrong. As we are now in 9th grade, this isn't a little deal anymore. Okay? We really need to keep focus of our signs and make sure that we get them correct. All right, so now we have a little bit of everything we've learned. We're going to use the distributive property to solve this one, and then we have to collect all of our like terms. So everything that we've done so far, the first day we did multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting integers. We're going to need that concept today. And then we went to collecting like terms. We're going to need to do that today. And then again, now we're doing the distributive property. So math is very sequential. And so if you miss an assignment or two because you're absent or you didn't do the work, we're kind of leaving you behind. And we can't really go back, keep going back to learning new concepts that you miss. Okay, so keep up with the work. So here we got 2 times 15, which I know 2 times 15 is 30x's. So there's my 30x. And now I got 2 times negative 7, which is a minus 14. Now I got another down here. There's nothing in these parentheses that I can do. So I'm going to take this negative 3 times everything inside the parentheses. Negative 3 times 9 is a minus 27 x's. And then a minus 3 times a plus 2 is a minus 6. Now let's go to collecting like terms. Again, I'm scanning through all my terms. X's are my biggest degree. I have a positive 30 and a negative 27. That's going to leave me with 3 x's. Here I have a minus 14 and a minus 6. I have negatives and I have some more negatives. So my final answer of simplifying that is taking all that and making it come down to 3x minus 20. Again, this is why the last couple of weeks I stress with my kids in class, show your work. We cannot plug all this stuff into a calculator and say, hey, spit me out an answer. We have to kind of do all the rules of math and work our way down the page. All right, let's try this one. Do this one, pause the video, do this one, and we'll see if we come up with the same answer. All right, let's see how we did. Welcome back. Here we go. We got negative 5 times 4, so that's a minus 20 x's. Negative 5 times 1 is a minus 5. Let's come down here. 6 times 8 is 48. And 6 times a negative 3 is a minus 18. Now, I've done my parentheses, got rid of all that. Let's combine like terms. I have a minus 20 x's and a plus 48 x's. I got more positives than I got negatives. And if my math is right, I think that's 18 x's. Let's do my units. I have a minus 5 and a minus 18 negatives, and I got some more negatives. So now I have a minus 23. There's nothing more I can do. But simplify means condense it down. Someone said x is 2. I can quickly plug that 2 in there, take it times 18 and take away 23. If I had to put 2 into all these places up here, then I would have a whole lot more math and it would take me a longer time to solve that problem. We'd still come up with the same answer. It would just take a little bit longer time for us to complete it. All right, so here's some for you to try. Now on these guys, I'm just going to bring them straight down. I did my distributive property for the first set of parentheses, bring everything straight down. Take my ends. I got 13 of them plus 11. bring down my 7. Now I'm going to get rid of my parentheses. Got some n's and got some m's. 11, 12, 13 of them. I got a 7 plus a 6. A little bit more involved. You can try to make your t's into cursive so that we can make sure that we don't mistake it for a plus sign, because that kind of would look weird right there in itself. I'm going to bring down my plus 9t because there's nothing there to do, but now I need to do my distributive property over here. Let's go ahead and start collecting like terms. My largest term here is t's, and I have a lot of them. I have 24 there, 9 there, 12 more there. So if I add them all up, look at my calculator, speed that one up. I'm getting 45 t's. Now on this one, let's do my units. I have 20 here and 21 there for a total of 41. Okay. Now sometimes this confuses kids a little bit when we have the negative sign in front of the parentheses. Really in algebra we get lazy, but there's really a -1 there. So when I do a -1 and there's a 1 in front of this a, -1 times +1 is still a -1a. So again, some kids will kind of just write -a. And then if we took -1 times 5, we have a -5. Nothing more I can do. A lot of times kids will start speeding things up. They'll say, hey, it's just when I have a negative sign touching the parentheses, it's the opposite of everything that's inside the parentheses. There's another way to look at it. So to speed things up, instead of doing all this distributive property, I would say, hey, we had a -x in the beginning, so now that becomes a +x. This was a +31, so now it becomes a -31. A negative times a positive is a negative. Negative times negative is positive. So to speed your math up, I would practice just taking the opposite of everything that's inside the parentheses. And that's how that's done. Simplest form means let's change the sign or put things together, which we were practicing that up there a little bit. Was the simplest form of this. So here's my math problem right here. So we said we just changed the sign of everything. So I'm going to do my work and put my answer down here. So it becomes a -2y because it was positive. And this would become a positive 3x because the opposite of a negative is a positive. And look at there, it's letter C, right where I had my work. Okay. Combining like terms, just a quick review. I got x squareds and x squareds. Here I got 8 of them. My coefficient is 8, and here I got 2 of them for a total of 10 of these things called x squareds. Simplified means do all the math that we possibly can. Here we have x's, and we have some y's I see, and we have some units. So to study my whole problem, x comes in the alphabet first, so I'm going to take those guys and put those together. I have 5 and a -3, which is 2 x's. When we go with my y's next, because those are variables with a 1 degree, there's no other y's, so that guy just comes straight down. And now lastly, I have my units. I have a -3 and a +4, which equals a +1 still left. Alright, so just I'm not sure why, no distributive property, just collecting like terms again. Alright, let's see what we got down here. It says, what is the simplified form of each expressions in parts A through C? So meaning, put these guys together, all 3 of these problems. So here I have 3y's, and here again I have a 1 minus 1. So I can put y's with y's. Let's look at this guy carefully. I have an m to the first, I have an m to the first, n to the fourth, n to the fourth. So even though these guys have multiple variables, they are the same. They have like variables, m n to the fourth. Here I have a minus 7, here I have a minus 5 for a minus 12 total. We keep the variables as they are. Study this one a little bit more. I have a y to the third z. That's a yz to the third, so these two are not alike. But here, this one's a y to the third z. So I can put the two that are underlined together. Here I have 7 plus 1. I have 1 y to the third. No, I have 8, don't I? 7 plus 1. I have 8 of these things called y to the third z. And now this guy has nobody to be put with, so I just bring him down. Now, both of these have a degree of 4. There's 3 here and 1 there, so that's really a degree of 4, we call it. This has a degree of 4 also. So if you're worried about standard form, we go in alphabetical order, y before z. They both have y as z's, but here I have more y's than this one. So the y's with the most comes first. So it's just breaking things down a little bit. That is the very best answer for that math problem right there. Let's look at the last problem here. It says, can we simplify this? As I look at my largest degree, it's a minus 2x to the fourth. I don't see any other 2x's to the fourth. I see some x to the thirds, no, but I see an x squared here. I don't see any other x squareds. I see some x's here, but I don't see any other x's. I see an xy, and I see a 2. So, to answer the question, can I simplify this? No, you can't. How come? There are no variables that are the same. Or let's say terms. That would be a better. There are no like terms. That would be a more simplified and correct way of writing your explanation. Okay, so that's it. Today we're doing the distributive property. We're collecting like terms and simplifying. Do all the math work possible. You have a Google form today, so some kids are just getting into the practice of trying to do it on the Google form document and submitting their answers. You're really supposed to be printing this off and getting the answer and turning it in. You'll see there's lots of fractions here today, but they're very, very simple fractions. So if I'm doing 1/3 times 9, yeah, it'd be the same as timing 9 over 1. So really that is 3 over 1, which is the same as 3, so this becomes 3x's. When I do 1/3 of 15, sometimes I can do this in my head. 1 times 15 is 15, 3 times 1 is 3, so in my head I'm thinking 15 over 3, which 3 goes into 15 5 times. There is nothing more I can do with that. But show your loop-de-loos, I call them, because again, we're going to get more than 2 terms inside our parentheses. So come up with a way that you're keeping track that you've taken care of the number out front and you're multiplying it times everything inside the parentheses. And I wouldn't, just like I did, bad example, I wouldn't draw all of my little loop-de-loos like that. I would draw them as you do the actual problem. Do 4 times x, record your answer, then draw your next one so that you're working your way across the problem and you're recording each time you make a little loop-de-loo. I have seen some kids that just make all the loop-de-loos and they kind of miss a term because all their loops are already drawn. You have 12 problems today because I talked a whole lot. So get those problems taken care of. Don't forget that when the negative sign's in front of parentheses like that, that means the opposite of everything inside the parentheses. Lastly, my Google Meets is going to be tomorrow instead of Wednesday of this week. So if you're having some problems that you want to talk to me about, tomorrow at 3:10 to 3:40, or I mean, excuse me, 3:10 to 3:50, I'll update the link on Google Meets on your Google Classroom, and I'll show you where that is that you can log in and get some help here. So at the bottom, whoops, didn't want to do that. Down at the bottom down here, I'll have to refix that. If you have questions or need help, I will update this link right here that you can click on that when you get on. If I'm busy grading papers or something, just kind of say something. Usually I hear you shuffling papers or something, but let me know that you're there and we'll see how I can help you. Alrighty, well have a good day.